part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Could be up to the offensive line. No, Prince's going to throw for it. Got to get it off. They go for the ball game. Touchdown! Touchdown! Michael Jenkins! Holy Buckeye!
Tebow straight ahead into the end zone, and the Gators have put this one on ice.
Hello, and welcome to the Tim and Shipe Show. This is a college football podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We're part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and we talk college football. We love it, and we just talk about it for a little while here, and we talk about the games that happened last week. Tim's a Gator fan. I'm a Buckeye fan. We make our picks against the spreads, and we've done pretty well this year. All right, Tim Jones, you were at the Florida State game, and it turned out pretty well for you. I know you're a little worried going into it. What do you think? What were your thoughts coming out of the game? First impressions, kind of leading into the Gators' future. We had an interim coach and all kinds of good stuff. So, what did you take away from the game?
Yeah, so there's a lot to talk about this week for both of us in general, but just in college football, there's so much that happened. I think it seems, and maybe I'm just biased because I'm seeing it because I'm interested in it, but it seems like there's more happening right now at the end of the season than a typical year. A lot of coaches moving around, a lot of schools making changes, and obviously Florida decided not to move forward with Dan Mullen. They had the game on Saturday, which Dan Mullen declined to coach in. They offered him, let him coach, and he declined. Yeah. And that was one of those things. And then, they have Knox stepped in as the temporary coach, and we came out. There were probably 10% Florida State fans in the stadium. Okay. And I happened to get seats right behind the Florida State band.
Nice.
I heard the Florida State Tomahawk Chomp way too many times. The stupid crappy music from that team. Like, it was just awful. But overall, it was a fun game to go to. The Florida players were ready. They were hyped. There was some intensity. The only downside was Emory Jones played terrible. Yeah. Emory Jones was awful. Like, when he's on, he's pretty good. When he's off, he is absolutely awful. And early in the second half, so there was a specific moment when everybody in the stadium knew we had to make a change, and that's what happened. It was in the third quarter. And I was talking to my brother-in-law specifically who was at the game. My wife was at the game. A lot of my family was at the game. But specifically, there was a moment in the game where Emory Jones made a pass, and the Gator receiver was covered, but there was a second defender who had his back to Emory Jones. Emory Jones literally threw the ball into the defender's back. Secondary defender. I've never seen it happen before. That bad of a play where he just completely misread the play to the level where the second defender is getting hit in the back by a ball because Emory Jones didn't see him. That shouldn't happen. No. And that was the last play he played in the game. At that point, Richardson came in and he led us to the victory. Like, it was nice. It was what made the difference in the game at that point. Anthony Richardson is the future of Gator football. I think that's pretty clear. And the big thing was, obviously, they made the announcement on Sunday. Napier is the next coach of the Florida Gators. And we talked about this last week, and I was on the fence about him specifically, but Cristobal was an option. There were a couple different options. I don't love Cristobal. Like, I don't love the fact that he has held that Nike football money and he hasn't done anything with it. He hasn't owned the Pac-12 like he should have at this point. He should absolutely be dominating the Pac-12, and he has not done that. The more I research Napier, the more I like him. So just for an example, this guy he loves the tedious, details about football. He loves schedules. He loves plays. He loves, breaking things up into tasks. He likes having these coaches who do specific expectations. Like, he loves this part about football. Like, he loves college football, and he loves saying, okay, I'm going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. He loves recruiting. he's a guy who loves the details of the game. And he's like, why would I want to do anything else in my life? Like, this is what I love. And he's incredibly passionate about it. And one of the big hangups, like I read for a week that Florida and Napier were in this process, but they couldn't finalize a contract because he was saying, you have to give me more money for recruiting. You have to give me more coaches for more staff for recruiting. He was basically saying, these are the details that have to be better for me to be successful. This is the guy who called the past several coaches for Florida and said, what went well, what didn't go well, what would you do differently? He wanted to know, how do I be successful at this program? He did all this research. He looked it up, and he came back to Florida and said, if you're going to hire me, you have to give me this amount of money for recruiting, this staff for recruiting to be able to do my job. And they went back and forth and negotiated. And at the end of the day, it wasn't about his paycheck. It was about the school. And so at the end of the day, he got what he wanted. And the school is going to be better for it, I believe. And the more I look into him, like the how methodical he is about this, he learned from under Dabo. He learned at Alabama, and he learned what he wants to have as his program. And although he doesn't have a lot of experience, it shows like he is incredibly successful at the University of Louisiana. And I know this doesn't mean anything. It's a small school. It's not a Power 5. But I think that this is exactly the kind of guy that Florida needs. And in the last couple of coaches, I've told you, I wasn't excited about it, Florida. I wasn't super excited about Dan Mullen being hired. We have recordings of this. It was like, he's good. Like, he has experience at Mississippi State, but I'm not incredibly excited about him. But to be fair, I wanted a couple of guys who have not done a good job at the programs we're at now, including Frost. But regardless of that, like, I look at this guy, and I was not excited last week. But the more research I've done over the past week, the more I look at him, and I'm like, this guy could be for real. Like, I believe in this guy. I think Napier is the guy who, I give him 3 seasons, Florida could be a national champion based on the difference that he makes.
Okay, I hope you're right. I think I mentioned it last week. I think you have unrealistic expectations for what Florida football can be at this point, as long as Nick Saban, and now you have Brian Kelly, which we'll talk about here in a second, going to LSU, which I say that, but anyway,
I love it.
Yeah, Brian Kelly's not going to do well at LSU. Yeah, but you have a lot of good teams in the SEC for 3 years for Florida. Man, that's a tall ask. That's a big ask for Billy Napier, and I worry that just like the other coaches at Florida, y'all are setting unrealistic expectations for what Florida can be.
And I get it, and I understand why you're saying that. I totally understand that. But keep in mind, this guy is different. There's something different about this guy. And I have never said this to you. I have not liked the last 3 hires we had. Since Urban Meyer, I have not been a fan of the coaches that we've had. And this guy is different.
Okay.
He already, day one, he is still coaching. He has a conference championship game that he is preparing for right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, beyond the conference championship, he's not going to coach a bowl game for them, but he's coaching the conference championship for them. And he still was out there on the recruiting trail. For Florida. And so in this process, like day one, he signed this contract. He's out there recruiting. Not only that, but he sent the two coaches that he is committed to keeping were out on the recruiting trail.
Wow.
He has said, we are going to recruit right now. Like, he is not waiting. He is not saying, well, I have time. This is my team. He is saying, we are going to start day one. And officially, Nick Evers, who's one of the top quarterback recruits in the country for 2022, shut down his recruiting because he went and met with him, and he said, this is the guy. This is the guy I want to play for. He's already starting it. He's already changed that quickly. He's changed the perspective. He's changed the motivation. He's changed the focus, and it's already making an impact on the team.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you don't beat the Buckeyes, man, I hope you do great. I mean, that's really my only stipulation to how well I want him to do. Again, I'm skeptical based on the history of Florida since Urban left. So I am skeptical about what this team can do, especially as long as Nick Saban is still at Alabama. So
true. The good news is, though, he doesn't have to play them every week. That's the difference between LSU and Alabama. Is LSU has to play Alabama and Florida every single year, based on their schedule right now. that's how it goes. But with Florida, I looked at their schedule for next season. It's winnable. There are some tough games. Of course, they have to play Georgia. They play Texas A&M next year. They don't play Alabama. Alabama's like every fourth year. They would play in the conference championship. So, that means that they have to Alabama has to continue doing what they're doing, which obviously they've shown a track record of doing that. But I also think that Florida, the expectation at this point is win the SEC East every single year and get to the conference championship. And looking at the schedule, they only have, I think, 3 road games next year. They have a huge home schedule next year, and I think that's going to be a big advantage for them. And I think that there's a chance to recruit really well, to coach really well, and I expect Florida to rebound from this terrible season with a new head coach, new staff, and things are going to get better. I really believe. I have not been incredibly optimistic. But last year to me was the outlier. That was not the normal. That was the outlier, based on stumbling onto an incredibly talented quarterback who wasn't even expected to play.
Right.
And an unworldly level of talent at tight end. Like, once in a lifetime talent who is records in the NFL already in his first year. So for me, that was not so much. I don't give Maul as much credit as other people do for that. I think that looking back, that has to do with the talent that was kind of handed to him in those situations more than what he's proven.
Yeah. I like that. Billy Napier, is that right?
Yeah.
Billy Napier. He could be your guy. I'm rooting for you, Tim.
But regardless of that, I want to hear from you, man. I know we haven't talked much since Saturday, and I know it's been a tough few days for you, but I want to hear where you're at with everything.
Yeah, it was just a really bad football weekend. Buckeyes, Browns, just ugly. But Buckeyes especially, you got bullied, man. You could see that it was clear that Michigan wanted it more than us. I was really optimistic up until the first drive of the third quarter. I said, we didn't play our best game. We're only down by 1 point. Michigan controlled the whole game. They controlled the offense and defensive line. They were running the ball however they wanted, doing whatever they wanted. And Hutchinson was continuously in the backfield. And before the game, what did we say were the keys to victory for Michigan? Put pressure on Stroud and run the ball, control the clock, keep Ohio State's offense off the field. Yep. And they did everything they wanted. They did it. That's what they wanted. Stroud does not do well under pressure. He's great. He's not to blame for this loss.
And he's young.
And he's a freshman, for crying out loud. He's a freshman All-American. But this team is young. Next year, I think we'll be a lot better as long as we can find a defensive coordinator. Because even though, everyone was saying that our defense is way better after the Oregon game, as soon as they played another tough opponent, they weren't. We showed the same flaws that we had all season against Oregon. It was like there's zero change when it comes to tough games, and I blame Ryan Day a lot for the play calling. Like I said, I was optimistic going into the third quarter, down by 1. We're more talented. We can score in bunches. I was like, we'll be fine. And then Ohio State got the ball, ran the ball 3 times in a row, and turned it over. Wow. Run. Just horrible play calling. Disgusted. Whatever. And then Michigan, we punt. Michigan gets the ball, drives down, and scores.
Well, Haskins was historically good in that match.
5 touchdowns, Tim.
Yeah,
5 touchdowns. It was like watching the Oregon game again. Their running backs just running all over us. We don't know how to fill holes, fill gaps.
Yeah. The offensive line, and like I said, I didn't watch the game. I just watched highlights. But that offensive line in the red zone, I haven't seen Ohio State play that way defensively in a very, very long time, maybe ever.
We got pushed around. They were tougher than us. They were just tougher than us. I don't want to hear Ohio State that we work all year for this, because Michigan acts like they've been working their whole lives for this game. Like they just wanted it they wanted it more than us. We came out flat in the second half, and even today, Michigan's coaches, as like the defensive line coach or somebody like that, said Ohio State's not a tough team anymore. They're just a finesse team. And I kind of agree with that. That's how we played. We played with finesse, and we didn't play with toughness. And they bullied us and pushed us around, and they absolutely deserved to win. Like if we were going to pull out some miracle, I had, hopes like, all right, hey, we just need to break a couple. But when Ryan Day elected to kick it off instead of, and with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Ryan Day decided to kick off after our last touchdown. We pulled within 8, one score with 4 minutes left in the game, and Ryan Day does a full-fledged kickoff and non-onside kick. Now, what's the popular saying when you do that, Tim? When you kick off, instead of going for the onside kick, you say, "I'm going to trust my defense."
Yeah,
right? That's the saying. I'm going to kick it off because I trust my defense, and you shouldn't. What Ryan Day did our defense do for you to trust them that game? Nothing. They let him just run all over you, walk all over you. I mean, your defense could do nothing. Why on earth would you not kick the onside kick to try to put the ball back in your offense's hand and keep your defense off the field? Because your defense played like garbage.
Fair point.
So it was just, anyway, Stroud, he did fine. He looked like, I mean, if you look at his stats, 37 of 49 or something like that, almost 400 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. It looks like a Heisman kind of day. Running back, couldn't get the running game started, 17 rushes for around 74 yards, something like just not, and it's our offensive line. They couldn't do anything. I don't know. We have a lot of offseason changes. As far as I'm concerned, the offseason starts right now. We might get a chance at the Rose Bowl. So, Tim, tell me where my mind should be here. Because if I don't want Michigan to go to the playoffs, I don't want them to win a national championship. I want them to be good throughout the year so that it makes the rivalry better at the end. I don't want Michigan to do well right now. But if Michigan loses, then they go to the Rose Bowl. Ohio State gets some other crappy bowl. They don't. But if they win, then Ohio State will probably play in the Rose Bowl and get another shot at Oregon. So what should I be rooting for here, Tim?
I'm going to be honest with you. The Rose Bowl doesn't mean what it used to mean.
I know. But I'd like another shot at Oregon.
That I understand. It's a tradition, but it doesn't mean what it used to mean.
Right.
It doesn't have the same, the same excitement. You want your conference to do well, obviously.
I'd rather have 0 Big Ten teams in the playoff than have Michigan there.
Well, there you go. There's your answer then.
Yeah. I don't want to see Michigan in the playoff. I'm just very upset. And I don't even know why I'm upset with Michigan. I shouldn't be upset with Michigan. I'm upset with Ohio State's coaching staff.
Well, but you are upset with Ohio State. That's what it comes down to.
Right. I'm upset with Ohio State.
Right?
Yeah. I'm not like Michigan. They poured their hearts and soul into it and won. I have nothing. Yeah. That's good for that's great for them.
What do you expect?
It's frustrating. Here's another thing that's frustrating, Tim, is Ohio State not developing defensive players well. We have Taraji Mitchell, who was the number 1 linebacker in the class. Cody Simon, who's the number 8 linebacker in the class. We have 5 stars all over that defense, and especially at linebacker. But we have a converted tight end and a converted running back who are starting. Eichenberg and Steele. Like, we have converted players from other. Are we not developing linebackers? Are we not developing our defense? Like, what? I mean, our defensive line seemed fine, but we couldn't put pressure on Michigan. And it was just bad. Like, what's going on with our defensive staff right now? It's time to. I don't know. It's easy for me as a fan to armchair coach and say fire the whole defensive staff, get somebody new in here, but I don't know.
Right. Yeah. This is time to evaluate. The fortunate thing is you have several weeks to evaluate and figure out before the bowl game, and the bowl game obviously is going to lead into recruiting and who's going to commit to your school coming into next year.
All right. I know the Ohio State staff is out and about doing a lot of recruiting right now. And I mean, it's, as far as I'm concerned, the season's over. Pack it up. Get your little consolation prize of being in a bowl game and doing whatever. I hope you win. I'll watch, I'll root, but I don't really care. It's playoffs or bust in Columbus, Ohio. And
I understand.
And it's just whatever.
If it's any consolation, at least you're not in Oklahoma or Notre Dame right now. Because right now, those programs are scrambling, absolutely scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. Lost their coaches and surprise moves. Lincoln Riley, who I watched Saturday when he in an interview said, "I am not going to LSU. I don't plan to go anywhere. I'm where I'm meant to be. This is a program I'm supposed to be at." Literally, less than 12 hours later, he's the
On a
announcement
plane.
comes out he's going to USC.
Yeah.
He didn't even talk to his team. They
didn't?
heard it from the media.
Wow.
And then when he met with the team, it did not go well because players called him out, and he literally walked out. Like I think I read like a minute into the conversation with the players, he walked out because they called him out on it, and it wasn't going well.
Wow.
So he left, and they were ticked.
I
Understandably,
bet.
they
Yeah.
felt betrayed
Yeah.
because
There
he
be
said,
a
"I'm
lot of
leaving."
transfers, man. What is it? I'm sorry.
No, I was saying like he had committed to them and said, "I'm not going anywhere," and then he's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like,
I
never seen. I don't think I've ever seen that in a college program. It's one thing with like Nick Saban saying, I am the coach of the Dolphins. I'm not going anywhere." And next thing you know, he's at Alabama. He's gone back into college football. But I don't know if I've ever seen a college coach who's like, "I'm doing this. I'm not going anywhere." And then within 12 hours, he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's dirty. And I hope that it hurts him in other places. I hope it hurts him in USC. I hope he gets some kind of karma from those kinds of moves, because that's not classy. That's not professional. That's not how you should act, especially to players that have poured their hearts and soul into working hard for you, and then they get nothing in return.
Yeah,
so that's
the downside is it seems like it's actually going to play in his favor because there are several recruits who have already decommitted from Oklahoma. Like I think 5 last time I saw instantly who decommitted from Oklahoma, and a couple of them are from California. So there's a really good chance, from what I'm hearing, is that they're going to end up there at USC with him because they're going with the coach, not with the program. And I think that program, unless they get the right person in place, they have Bob Stoops coaching their bowl game.
Yeah.
But outside of that, they don't know what they're going to do. They're scrambling right now, trying to figure out what to do. But that program is either going to thrive or crumble. There's no in between.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If they find the right person, like with Lincoln Riley, then they'll be okay. But if they don't, that program will fall apart.
Yeah, maybe Stoops steps back in, says, "I'll take another round at this. Give me a couple years." And coach is getting paid $10 million a year. Well, more than that. Getting paid, 12 whatever $1 million a year. Stoops might want to step back in the ring and see what he's got.
Though. Let's be real. That the game had surpassed him.
Yeah.
At the end of his time there, they just happened to have a guy waiting who was Lincoln Riley. Like I don't think that was a coincidence that program thrived. I mean, Bob Stoops hadn't done anything in 5 years before he retired.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I don't like the way Brian Kelly just rubs me the wrong way too. Heading out, going to LSU. He said he spoke for 11 minutes and then he just bailed too, just walked out too. And it's just these coaches, man. And I get it. Like, and here's the other side of it. I don't like either of those coaches. It's kind of a personal thing. If, Ryan Day decides to leave or something like that, I don't know if I'd be this bitter, but a school can fire a coach like Orgeron right after a contract, weeks after a contract renewal.
Right. And,
that's their right. So a coach should be able to do the same exact thing and leave whenever he wants. But I do think there's a certain level of respect and a level of humility that you need to show your players in moments like that. So
I agree. It's at that point, it's not about what loyalty you owe to the program. It's about the players that you've sat in their living room with their parents telling them, "I'm going to be here for the whole 4 years you're here." And then instantly they're just gone. And that's not even like, it's not even like, hey, this may happen. It's I'm not leaving until the ink is dried, and then you're just gone. That's where I think it's a problem. And that's what the players are saying is like, we committed to you, and you told me you're not leaving. You told me you were going to be here, and then that's it. They're gone. But I think Brian Kelly is making a huge mistake. You really want to play Florida and Alabama every single year?
Every year, man. And the only reason he thrived at Notre Dame is because of their schedule. Like he didn't recruit well. I think he was in the top 20 a couple times. He hasn't recruited well, and I don't know. Maybe he develops, but he has a weak schedule. His offensive style, I don't think fits the SEC. Like he just,
well, it's not going to be good. He's never recruited out of the Midwest.
Right.
Cincinnati, Notre Dame. You're going to LSU. You think you're just automatically going to be able to recruit that whole territory? Like, good luck with that, man.
Yeah.
You have a program with a name behind it, but like, you haven't done anything for a year and a half at that program, and you're a new guy. Like, there's no guarantees.
Yeah, he's not going to do well. But it opened. So here's where I'm at though. who's going to coach Notre Dame next? Right now I'm hearing Luke Fickell is their number one candidate, which isn't surprising. He's Catholic.
No.
Well,
he said Ohio State or Notre Dame would be temptation for him to leave. It's the only program, 2 programs he would leave for potentially.
Yeah, so I could see he's the number one candidate too. I was thinking like maybe Notre Dame will try to go to the NFL again, try to find somebody.
I'm still hearing Urban Meyer's on the table.
And Urban Meyer, yeah, maybe so it's going to be. It was really easy to root against Notre Dame because I didn't like Brian Kelly. I've also heard maybe Marcus Freeman, the defensive coordinator, stepping up, being the head coach, ascending into that role. So if Marcus Freeman, Urban Meyer, or Luke Fickell go there, I'm going to have a hard time not rooting for him because I like all three of those coaches.
I still would.
I like all three. I mean, Luke Fickell, defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman, an alumni of Ohio State football, Urban Meyer, Urban
Meyer for me is the worst one of the three.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, but man, I just all three of those guys, I want to root for them. I want them to do well wherever they go, but not Notre Dame.
Yeah,
why is that such a dream job for people? I don't get it.
That's the thing. I think there's so much news and so much going on. I feel like we could talk about this all night.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't feel like the audience necessarily is like, hey, I don't have time for this.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'll say about Ohio State. If Marcus Freeman doesn't get the Notre Dame job, we need to back the Brinks truck up to his house and say, write your check. What do you want to be the defensive coordinator at Ohio State? We'll make it happen. That even though here we go. Sorry. Last thing. Marcus Freeman used to coach that's where he got his start, was coaching for Luke Fickell at Cincinnati. And then he went from Cincinnati to Notre Dame. So if Luke Fickell goes to Notre Dame, he might want to stick around too, or look for a head coaching job. I think I'm sure he has a lot of offers. All right, let's wrap that up. I've talked enough about it. I'm really bitter about the Ohio State game, but we'll move on to our picks. Tim Jones, take it away. How'd I do last week? How'd you do last week? And what am I up against this week as we wrap things up?
All right. Well, last week was actually really intense, really good games.
Mm-hmm.
We both did well with, actually we didn't do well with a couple of games. We did well with some games. Overall, not great, but this was actually probably our worst week.
Yeah,
I'm completely backtracking. I was trying to be like, yeah, we did good. No, we didn't.
No, we didn't do good. Yeah, we just didn't do good.
We didn't do well. So we all picked Ohio State, me, you, and Joel, if you remember.
Yeah, that's right.
Against Michigan. Michigan was given 8.5 points. Obviously, we know what happened there. We all missed that one. The Oklahoma State game, I took Oklahoma. You both took Oklahoma State -4. It ended up being a -4 spread at the end. So
it was a wash.
It was a wash. And then Mississippi handled Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
So I won there. Florida and Florida State also was a wash. Florida was -3 in that game, so it was a wash there. And then it came down to Alabama and Auburn. We all picked Auburn -19.5. We picked Alabama, -19.5 against Auburn, and none of us got it. I couldn't believe that game. That game was unbelievable. Alabama might have lost that game.
Alabama's they're not a top-ranked team, Tim. Are you with me? Are you with me? Jeez. I've been saying it all year. They're not
I don't want to talk about too much too soon. We'll come back to that. So at the end of it, I thought for sure that I had the Oklahoma spread with that +4. It didn't work out. It ended up being -4.
Yeah.
And same with Florida State. Florida actually handled that game pretty convincingly.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get to watch any of that game, by the way? We didn't even talk about this. Did you get to watch any of that game? I have never seen this in college football. It was one of those moments where if you're there or if you're watching it, you will never forget.
Yeah.
So this was two teams playing for bowl eligibility. The loser goes home done for the year, right?
Yeah.
Florida State is down by 10. They score a touchdown. They have to go for the onside kick because there's like 1 minute and 4 seconds left. They have no choice to go for the onside kick. The kicker goes for the onside kick, tries to do some kind of fancy play, barely touches the ball. It literally just falls over off the tee. Doesn't roll, just falls over right there. And everybody just kind of stops because it's like, what do we do now? You know what I mean? And like a Florida State player tries to pick it up and run, and they automatically blow it dead because they didn't go 10 yards. It's a penalty. game over. Like, that's it. Like, Florida wins because Florida State tried to do something crazy.
Oh no!
Florida State's season literally ends on an onside kick that
Jeez.
goes 2 inches.
Wow.
And within an hour, they had these incredible memes going of like Peanuts, like Snoopy and
Charlie Brown,
Charlie
yeah.
Brown,
Yeah.
of the little girl holding the football and Florida State's kicker kicking it within like an hour. Like, it was so classic. It was so well done.
That's good.
Sorry, I'm working off track, but I just couldn't believe
That's funny.
Ended.
Yeah.
That's how Florida State's season ended. It was against a rival on the road. You're going to do an onside kick, and you're going to kick it 2 inches. It literally just dropped balls, and nobody knew what to do. Even the refs had to talk for like 3 minutes. Like, 3 minutes, like, did he kick it? Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Before they were like, yep, that's a penalty, and
game over.
Ball, and game over.
Wow.
Anyway, so based on all of that, we ended up, I gained a game on you. So you were still up by 2.
Up by 2.
You're up by 2. Going into conference championship season. The other thing I want to mention that I forgot to mention earlier against the Florida State game, at the beginning of the game, Florida actually did a salute to Bobby Bowden, who died earlier this year, which I think was incredibly classy, because how many rivalry games do you see where like a legendary coach dies and the opponent on the road is going to do a whole like memorial thing for their career and their life and their legacy.
That's
so
nice.
I just want to mention that was a super classy move, I thought, with Florida doing that for Bobby Bowden and Florida State. But anyway, so we have 6 games that are significant coming up. You look nervous. You look. Really
I am nervous, man. I am nervous. This is it. I got to win this year. I'm so tired of losing this thing.
So what we talked about before we started recording is we have 6 games. You're up by 2. So for whatever reason, we up in a tie. We'll look into the playoff to figure out the tiebreaker. Yeah. So for right now, all that matters is you're up by 2. You just have to hold that lead.
Hold it.
And we have 6 games.
Okay. So winner gets a jersey.
Yes, right. We're both playing for a jersey at this point. We're
both playing for a jersey. Yeah.
So we'll start with the non-Power 5. Yeah. But I have to include it because it's 2 top 25 ranked teams. We have number 21 Houston playing against number 4 Cincinnati. Cincinnati is favored by 10.5 in the conference championship. So you don't have to answer now. I'll tell you all the teams.
We say 10.5.
10.5. Cincinnati. Okay. So I'll tell you all 6 games, and then we'll go back and we can decide what we want to do as far as like picks. Number 2 Michigan is playing against number 13 Iowa because Wisconsin blew it. Yeah. So number 2 Michigan, number 13 Iowa. Iowa is given 10.5. So Michigan's
10.5 again.
10.5. Tough call on that one.
Yeah.
All right, and then we have number 15 Pitt. This is my favorite. Is like the ACC is just garbage this year.
Is nuts.
We have number 15 Pitt playing against number 16 Wake Forest. You want to guess who is favored in this game?
Pitt by 8.5.
Pitt by 3.
Pitt by 3.
Yeah. So Pitt is favored by 3 against Wake Forest. Both these teams are garbage. Like, it's just unbelievable. Yeah. And then we have number 9 Baylor and number 5 Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is favored by 5.5. All right.
Okay.
And then we have number 10 Oregon and number 17 Utah. Utah is favored by 3 this time.
At what number, Utah?
Sorry, Utah 17.
17 Utah.
So 10 Oregon, 17 Utah. Utah favored by 3.
Okay.
And then number 1 Georgia against number 3 Alabama. Georgia is favored by 6.5.
Okay.
So those are our 6 games. I already have my picks.
What?
I'm assuming you have your picks now. Are you ready to do this? Do you feel good about this right now? The 6 games, do you feel good that you can win at least 3 games?
I hope so. I hope, you already have yours?
I have mine.
You have yours? Okay.
Right here.
All right,
Show it
let's.
to you so you can see I have my T by every single pick.
So the Houston at Cincinnati and the Michigan and Iowa, those two are going to be the toughest for me. Those are really hard ones to pick. So could we start at the bottom, work our way up?
Sure.
Georgia, Bama, work our way up to Cincinnati.
Yeah, we'll go
Houston.
reverse of the order that we did. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
So number 1 Georgia and against number 3 Alabama. Georgia favored by 6.5.
Give me Georgia.
I agree. Yeah, I would have gone for Alabama to cover until I watched them play Auburn, and I.
Do you agree with me?
No, I still think that Georgia's going to lose because I don't think Georgia's quarterback is good enough, but not now.
Wait, you think Georgia's going to win?
Well, this game.
Yeah.
They're not going to win the championship, I guess is what I'm saying. They're not going to win it all. They're not good enough to win it all, but I think they're going to beat Alabama.
No, do you agree with me that Bama is barely a top 10 team?
Well, you were saying 15.
15. I was going 15, but I was going to give you 10, like to where you didn't have to go all the way there.
I'll say they're not a top 5 team.
Not a top 5 team?
Yeah. I still think they could
not
beat.
Much of a stretch.
I think they could beat Michigan. Well, not Michigan. They could beat Iowa, I think, right now.
Yeah, Iowa's 13.
I'm just saying.
I think it'd be close. A lot
of these conference champions, I think that Alabama would beat. But I don't think that they're going to beat Georgia right now based on the way they played recently.
Yeah.
All right, so
Georgia.
Number 9 Baylor, 5 Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State favored by 5.5.
I like Oklahoma State on this one.
This is not going well for me because I agree with you there. I don't know about Baylor.
Baylor's most overrated team, I think, in the whole top 25 right now.
That could be. That's not an overreaction. I feel like that's real.
Yeah. Baylor's most overrated. Maybe Ohio State, being the top ranked 2-loss team, that might be an overranking. Ohio State. Frustrated. All right, never mind. Let's go. All right, let's keep
Number 10, Oregon. Number 17, Utah. Utah favored by 3.
Oregon. Hard to beat the same team. Yep. Hard to beat the same team twice, man.
This is not going well for me because I also took Oregon because I agree, especially on a neutral site. There was a game at Utah, and I think Oregon was overlooking them. Didn't play well, and I think that Oregon's going to make changes, and they ended up they're going to change. They're going to play differently this time. I think
they're going to win outright. Yep.
Okay. Number 15, Pitt. Number 16, Wake Forest. Pitt favored by 3.
I'm actually taking Pitt on this one.
Good. I took Wake Forest. I needed that one. I think the reason Pitt is favored is because they have a quarterback who's supposedly maybe the number 1 quarterback taken in the draft this year. But they haven't done anything to show me they're good. Neither of these teams really have, but I have a little more faith in Wake Forest.
Spencer Rattler, man. Did you watch him play? Dude is so good.
He's in the portal.
No, not Spencer Rattler. I'm sorry. Riddler.
Riddler. Oh.
Yeah. He's going to be the number 1 quarterback off the board. He is good, man. He is so good. I was watching him throw the ball. It just zips out of his hand. He's so good. Yeah, he's really good. And he's mobile. He'll be the number 1 quarterback off.
All right.
I called that at the beginning of the year. I don't know if you remember, but I called at the very beginning of the season that he was going to be the number 1 quarterback.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's working out for you.
I hope so. We'll see.
All right. Well, now the 2 games that you were struggling with. Number 2, Michigan. Number 13, Iowa. Michigan favored by 10.5.
Give me Iowa because I think that their defense is going to show up, and 10.5 is a lot to give their defense.
I'm taking Michigan.
Okay.
Just because I think Iowa is so back and forth that I'm hoping that Michigan will continue the momentum. My fear is that Michigan will have given everything they had in this Ohio State game, and they're not going to have it left in this game.
Yeah.
But I don't have a choice, really, honestly, either, because I have to go against you, and I was already leaning towards Michigan. So hopefully they can handle that. And then 21 Houston versus number 4 Cincinnati. Cincinnati is favored by 10.5.
Give me Cincinnati on this one.
I thought you would say that, and I went Houston to cover, but not to win.
Okay.
So that's good because that works out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we have 3 different. the three I was struggling with. I think the bottom three were pretty obvious to me, at least. The top three, man, all I got to do is win one of them. Just have to win one.
Don't
Pitt,
love that.
and I don't have to root for Michigan. I did that kind of strategically to where I can root for Iowa.
Am I allowed to change picks?
Why?
If I want to pick Utah to beat Oregon.
I mean, yeah, you're doing it just to have a fourth one different.
Yeah, I am. But you also changed your Alabama pick, which actually backfired on you.
What do you mean I changed my? Oh, last week. I don't know if I changed it. I went with them. You
definitely said you picked Auburn, and then I said, "Oh, by the way, Bo Nix is out."
Oh, that's right. I did. Yeah, that's right. Darn it.
Well, I want to change my pick right now. I'm picking Utah to beat Oregon by more than 3.
All right.
Here,
Tim.
Gary pick. Now we have 4, and I feel better about that. I feel better about that.
So now I have to have 2 of those.
So much pressure coming into Saturday.
What do you mean? You've won 3 seasons now, 4 seasons, whatever it is. You don't need this, Tim. I do.
Don't want to lose. We're competitors. What we do, we don't want to lose.
I get it. I'd be the same way. All right, Tim Jones. Let's get to our top 4. Who is in? If Tim Jones is making his playoff prediction, who's in next week?
Who's going to be in?
Yes.
Ultimately?
Yes.
It's tough.
I know.
If I have to pick who's going to be in, I do think Georgia's going to be Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So Georgia will be in. I think that Cincinnati will be in kind of by default, more than because the committee likes them. I think that Alabama obviously will be out at that point. Based on my picks, Oklahoma State will be in. So we will have Georgia, we will have Cincinnati, we will have Oklahoma State, and we will have Michigan.
Michigan is who you're thinking. So you're thinking to go number 1, Georgia, 2, Michigan, 3, Cincinnati, 4, Oklahoma State?
That's what it's looking like.
Okay.
No, that's too easy, I think, really.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't be shocked if one of those teams loses and then Notre Dame somehow sneaks in without Brian Kelly, which I don't think that would be good for them because I think they would get destroyed in the playoff.
Right. Yeah. I think the committee will take that into account too.
Sure.
So I've gone back and forth on this too. I've heard a lot of people say, in Ohio State country, they're like, okay, so this team has to lose, this team has to lose, this team has to lose, and then Ohio State has a chance of getting into the college football playoff again. Like there's a route for them to still get in. And my stance on it, hate me or not, is we don't deserve to be there. You can't lose to Michigan and then get to the playoff. You can't lose to Oregon and Michigan and get to the playoff, for heaven's sake. So I don't want to see Ohio State. I want them to not get it out of jail free to what they showed.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Because Ohio State's not playing, if Alabama lost in a close game to Georgia, they would drop but they would still stay ahead of Ohio State.
Yeah. And there's no way that you put, even if Michigan loses, you can't put Michigan out and Ohio State in, because Michigan beat Ohio State head to head. So even if, Michigan might still get in even with 2 losses, even if they lose to Iowa because they beat Ohio State and they have good wins on their schedule, they still might get that 4th spot.
Yeah.
They would be the 2-loss team to get in, right? That's how I see it. Like if Michigan loses, they're the best 2-loss team in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It would be Michigan or Alabama with 2 losses over Ohio State with 2 losses.
That would be the debate. Which of those 2-loss teams gets in? So we know how much the committee loves Bama, and so I would put Bama in that 4th spot.
Yeah, I think the only way Ohio State gets in is if Oklahoma State and Cincinnati lose and Alabama loses and Michigan loses.
Right.
Then it would be like, okay, Notre Dame and Ohio State are going to get in over Oklahoma State and Notre Dame.
I think I would love to see the only way I'd want Ohio State to go to the playoffs is if they get a chance to play Michigan again. I would like to see that some kind, a playoff matchup, Michigan, Ohio State. I would like to see that.
I don't think mathematically that's possible.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's not going to happen, but it would be fun. So, but here's mine. I have Georgia 1, Cincinnati 2, Oklahoma State 3, Bama 4, because I think Bama's the 2-loss team that gets in. And
Wow.
I would, and because Brian Kelly, he will be out. And the committee actually came out today and said they're going to take that into account next week when they make their final picks, whether coaches or players are out. That's when it's going to come into account. So I think without Brian Kelly at Notre Dame, they've lost their chance of making the playoffs. So I think Bama's a 2-loss team in the playoff this year.
Interesting. I like it.
Yep. So any final thoughts, Tim Jones? Anything you want to add before we go into the conference championship week that you and I are just going to be watching for the heck of it with no real dogs in the fight here?
Yeah, that's my thought is, several weeks ago, this was not the expectation going into the season. The first few weeks of the season, this was not the expectation. Obviously, Florida's expectation changed pretty quickly versus Ohio State, but the good news is there's hope for the future for the Florida program. I'm more optimistic today than I have been in a long time.
Yeah.
And so I like Napier. I'm excited to see what happens, and I am excited for the future for the first time in a while.
Yeah, my final thoughts on the game is that if anything good came out of this Ohio State-Michigan game, it's a renewal to the rivalry. There's a renewed spirit to it. And I remember coming into the season, I was like, I don't care to call them Michigan. We've dominated Michigan the same way we've dominated Purdue or Illinois the last 8 years.
Right.
They haven't, last 10 years.
Yeah.
And Harbaugh, did you hear his comments this week? He said, he said the saying wrong. He said, some people are standing on third and think they hit a triple. And he was clearly talking about Ryan Day. But the saying, Harbaugh, is some people were born on third base and believe that they hit a triple. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, get the saying right if you're going to, bash my coach. But, yeah, he was saying that about Ryan Day clearly, right? That, he was gifted this, but we've seen coaches step into big programs and do terrible. Yep. It says something about Ryan Day being able to sustain and even grow on it. He has better players. He doesn't have that. And I hated when people were like, oh yeah, Urban Meyer, he has a psychology degree. He really knows how to get his players hyped for a game. Tim, you know how worthless a psychology degree is in college. That's a phone it in kind of degree. Same with, the degree I have as well. But you have to get your master's. He didn't get his master's. He phoned it in and wanted to be a college football coach. So a psychology degree, let's not go overboard with how we react to that. But anyway, his teams did seem more fired up and more tough than Ryan Day's teams. That's the drop that I've seen with Ryan Day and his offense. Ryan Day, at the beginning of the year, I called him an offensive genius. Now I'm looking at it as when it comes to big games, maybe he chokes a little bit and he tries to play a little too conservative because that's kind of what it leads to. And like he has his moments of brilliance. And gosh, I'm going to go off on this again, but Ryan Day, you're supposed to be an in-game coach, right? Are you supposed to be able to have those halftime adjustments? I've bragged about you for years being able to make those halftime adjustments. And this year you didn't, especially not against Michigan. You did not make any halftime. If anything, you came out more flat and fragile seeming in the second half. You just so frustrating, whatever. So final thoughts, Ohio State, you got a lot of work to do this offseason. Make some coaching changes, make some developmental, who's developing your player change, whatever it is, get it right so that next year I'm not having the same kind of ruined week like I am right now. So,
yeah. Also, just random thought. I should have mentioned this earlier, and I'm sorry, I completely forgot about this. There are rumblings that Brian Kelly actually legitimately reached out to Strickland at Florida before he expressed interest in LSU. And Florida said, thanks, but no thanks. We're good.
Really?
And then he went to LSU.
Wow.
Just want to mention that. You heard it from here. You heard it first.
So he really just wanted to be in the SEC, it seems.
It sounds like it. Yeah, it really does sound like it. And that's not me being a Gator homer. That's legit things that are coming out is that he actually reached out to Strickland first, and Strickland's like, no, we're good with Napier. This is what we're going with.
Yeah.
And they've apparently been talking to Napier since the South Carolina game, trying to, have those conversations. And then once that happened, he went to LSU.
Yeah. Well, yeah, good luck to LSU. I think good luck to Brian Kelly. No, not good luck to Brian Kelly. I hate
No,
Brian
it's not
Kelly.
going to be a good fit. It's going to be terrible. I can't. I'm so excited. This is going to be great. It's gonna be so
Yeah, they're going to fail. He's going to fail. He's going to get embarrassed. And he'll be the next coach at like Louisiana State, Raging Cajuns or whatever. Like that's his future. Hope you enjoy it, Brian Kelly. But cash those checks, man. Laughing all the way to the bank, I guess.
You're right.
Ryan Day, as much as I bad talked you today, you deserve a pay raise. You're still the best coach in the Big Ten. So hopefully he gets what he's owed. Mel Tucker, man, we didn't even talk about that. $95 million, set the bar high. I mean, when you think about coaches at Michigan State getting $95 million, what's that say Ohio State's got to pay, for Ryan Day, right?
Yeah, Ryan Day's going to head to Oklahoma. Who knows?
Maybe. I hope not. I don't know. Then we get Luke Fickell. I wouldn't be upset about it. I wouldn't hate that. Toughness would come back to Ohio State. So I think Luke Fickell goes to Ohio State over Notre Dame if Ryan Day leaves.
Yeah, I actually I'm cheering for that now because that'd be interesting.
Kind of am too. A little bit just kind of got me excited about that. But I like Ryan Day. So whatever. Anyway, all right. That's our episode. Give us a like, follow, comment on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're on them all. Check us out on Twitter a little bit more these days than any of the other platforms. So give us a comment. Tell us what you thought about the episode. Go on iTunes. Give us a review. Tell us what you think about the show. We'd love to hear from you.